fact, before we start the official agenda, maybe I can have a very quick introduction of myself, because I believe we have colleagues from Singapore as well as from Australia, if I'm not wrong. So a very big welcome and happy Women's International Day. It's really a good time to be able to see everybody here. My name is May. For those of you who do not know who I am, May Tan Mullins. I'm a very new addition to JCU Singapore. I just joined 1st of September 2021. So officially I'm 6 months. Just coming out of probation. So very exciting 6 months, learning a lot in JCU Singapore. Prior to this, I was in China for 12 years. And before that, I was in UK Durham for 3. And while I was in China, and that's where I met Polly as well, I'm also working very hard on the diversity and equity issues in the university in China. And as we all know, you know, whenever we talk about gender equity or equality, is always very much tied to the culture of the place that we are in. So the world is very challenging for women, but I think it's getting much better. And there are just some places that are much better for women than others. Before we commence, I think we're almost ready. So before we commence, I want to say that JCU sends our deepest sympathy and empathy to all the friends and family colleagues in Ukraine in terms of what's happening there. Our hearts goes out with you in that sense, okay? With that, I would like to officially start today's agenda. So I am May, as I say again, I'm the host and moderator of today's session. A very big welcome. There are a couple of housekeeping matters that I have to let you know. First, the webinar will be recorded for publicity purpose. We would like to seek your consent. Once you are in it, you'll consider giving your consent. And as attendees, you'll be able to ask questions at any point of the webinar through the Q&A function. If you look at the function bar, there's two. One is the chat and one is the Q&A. Please make sure you put your questions into the Q&A function, please. However, our 3 speakers, they will speak first, 20 minutes each, and the collective Q&A will be conducted at the end of the session. We'll dedicate about another 20 minutes for the Q&A. And again, you can use the Q&A function as well. That would be very good. At the end of this seminar, there will be also a satisfaction poll and survey at the end of the webinar. So please let us know what you think of this webinar. We'll be very pleased to improve on any of your feedback and comment. And finally, if there are any technical issues, please use the chat button to communicate with our event organizers, and we will try our best to resolve your issues. Without further ado, let me just very quickly introduce our panelists today. We have 3 speakers, just one moment, and they have very long CVs that I'm going to read out to you, all very accomplished female scholars. Very good in their field as well. So just very quickly, let me close my chat box. There's a couple of things popping up, so it keeps coming up. So very quickly, we have the first presenter will be Associate Professor Kim Ji Wong. She's with the Business School at the James Cook University, Singapore. Dr. Wong is a very active researcher in many fields, such as corporate governance, international business, and sustainable business practices. And a lot of her research aims to bridge the understanding between the East and the West, which is very interesting. Culture is very important, through refining theories developed in the West to Eastern contexts, or by comparing firms and individuals' behavior between East and West. Her research has been published in top-ranked journals, very well done, such as International Business Review, Journal of Business Ethics, Management and Organizational Review, as well as Corporate Governance and International Review, etc. Currently, Dr. Wang teaches with us. She's teaching business courses related to marketing and management at the MBA level and economics for undergraduate. And then after that, we have Dr. Sherial, who's a lecturer at psychology, one of our very flagship programs at the James Cook University, Singapore. Her primary research revolves around empathy, emotions and well-being in the workplace, which is an absolute important topic in today's seminar. Her research areas reflects her own values and approach to her life as well. And Sherry's research has been published again in very esteemed psychological and management journals, such as Journal of Applied Psychology, Vocational Behavior, Occupational and Organization Psychology, as well as Applied Psychology, and International Review. Again, well done, very well-accomplished scholar as well. Last but not least, we have Dr. Polly Ng, a close friend of mine. We met each other in China. So thank you, Polly, for accepting our invite to come into these seminars to talk about important issues about gender, etc. She's currently the president and CEO of the BWT Group and chairman and CEO of the Global Women Connect, GWC. And I mean, I'll let Polly talk a bit in terms of what's the GWC, but I think she's doing great work there. It's really important. She's getting the top people coming together to mentor female leaders as well. I think that's really absolute data and important in today's field. She leads the BW Group and developed AI technologies and services for precision aquaculture, again, a field that JCUS is very good at, with the vision to make seafood sustainable for human happiness through blue intelligence. Very cutting edge stuff, yeah? She's also the founder and CEO of GWC, a global platform for people to share, learn, inspire, and grow together with the mission to unleash the potential of women in different stages of life. She holds a PhD degree with the University of Nottingham, where I'm from previously, a global MBA degree as well, and a BBA degree with the Chinese Universities of Hong Kong. She is a very frequent, in fact, guest speaker and lecturer for other universities as well, and very high-level events. She's also appointed adjunct professor for the government-funded healthcare big data research center in Qingdao University. So today, as we can see, we have three very esteemed, scholars and authors who are going to talk to us today about topics that are close to our hearts. So without further ado, sorry, I'm taking more time than I should. I would like to invite the first speaker, who is Associate Prof. Kim Ji Wong, to start with the presentation, please. Thank you, Kim Ji. Let's welcome her.
Thank you, May, for introducing us with such nice words. So first, allow me some time to load my slides. Where is my slides? Okay, this is it.
Yeah, that's great. We can see it, Pinji.
See it, right? Okay, perfect. So first, I would like to say good afternoon, everyone, and happy Women's Day to all the women, and also have a happy day for our gentlemen. So yeah, so I'll be the first speaker talking about the challenges in workplace, and then for me, we will have another two colleagues, Dr. Sherry Oh and Dr. Polly Ong, talking about different aspects. But before we start our talking, I would like to invite all of our audience to help us with a small and simple poll, okay, so that we have a bit of understanding what you are thinking about, and hopefully that we can connect with your thoughts. Okay, so now poll time. My colleague, can you help with this poll? Sorry. Are we doing it? Okay, I can see it now. Where is it? Oh.
It popped up and it disappeared. Can we try that again?
Yeah. Can we try it again?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes, now I can see it. Hi, audience, can you help with this poll? Thank you very much. So let's try to have it in like 1 or 2 minutes.
Pinji, you're making this poll very difficult to answer. You say we only can choose one, but everything is so relevant and important.
Yeah, because life is full of choice. We have to make our choice, right?
Yeah.
Try. I know it's difficult. I cannot see any result yet. I guess after my colleague released the results, can we only see it, right? Now, can everyone see the results now? Okay, so excellent. We have quite a, it disappeared again. Can we see? Yeah. Okay, so we have quite a good composition of our audience. We have 78% of ladies and then 22% of gentlemen. And then let's see, what are the following the greatest challenge to you right now? So this is a really, really difficult question, I know. So because in many occasions, we're facing more than one challenges. But obviously, so the mostly chosen challenge is work-life balance, followed by career advancement and mental and physical well-being. I guess all of these are related to the work-life balance, which would be related to the topic that Dr. Sherry is going to share with us. And then some of us, yes. And then after that would be self-doubt. Okay, I guess Dr. Polly, you're going to talk about it later, right? And yeah. And then next would be gender equality and others. Okay, perfect. So I think that's quite consistent with what we have expected. And hopefully that what we are going to share today could be related to our audience's thoughts. Okay, so now I'm going to close this poll and we bear this in mind. So my topic would be, thank you very much, my colleague. Coming back to my topic. Okay. Yeah, what I'm going to talk about today would be the challenges that women are facing in the workplace. So women have been trying to break away from the norms and standards that are set by our society for many, many years. And then to be true, right, like May has commented in the past several decades, the gender equality is really improving and more women are involved into the working place. Okay, however, women are still face quite a lot of challenges in the workplace. And then to understand those challenges, to kind of reflect those challenges, let's start from looking at some of the data. So first data would be about the economic empowerment or the money aspects. Okay, so related to women. Okay, so according to the data released by International Labour Organization, women on average are paid about 20% less than men across the world. Okay, and if we look into the map shown on this page, you can see this gender pay gap exists not only in the underdeveloped countries or emerging economies, it also exists in those developed countries. Okay, so just suggesting that this gender pay gaps is really a worldwide problem. But what causes this? Okay, so later we're going to talk about it. And then if you look at what is happening in Singapore, Singapore has a better picture. Okay, but again, the gender pay gap still exists. In 2018, the gender pay gap is around 6%. That means women in Singapore typically earn 6% less than men. Okay, but of course, better situation as compared to the other part of the world. So what contributes to such unequal pay across genders? There are many, many different reasons. For example, the legislation system, for example, so women and men may take different occupations, and then women and men may have different opportunities related to, say, taking on some leadership or taking on some promotion. So we're going to look at them. On this page, I would like to invite our audience to take a look at this map. So this map shows those economies which have or have not mandated the equal remuneration for work for equal value. So put it simply, okay, so those economies that are in orange color, they are the countries and economies which have mandated the equal pay for men and women. And then if you look at them, most of them, they are OECD high income countries. However, more than half of the countries around the world, including those countries in East Asia and Pacific, South Asia, Middle East, and North Africa, they do not have such mandated equal pay for men and women. So what does it mean? That means legally, it is fine to pay different genders differently. So that is probably one of the reasons. And then next, another reason for this unequal pay across gender could be, say, if you look at what kind of occupations that men and women are taking on. So we find the men, they are overrepresented in higher paying occupations, but women tend to be in lower paying occupation. Okay, so this is data coming from Singapore. So you can see here, these pink dots indicates the occupations dominated by women. And look at where are those pink points. The pink points, can you see it? It is at the lower pay scale. And then what are those higher pay scale? Okay, so you can see majority of the points would be those blue points, meaning the occupations dominated by men. For example, ICT service manager, medical doctor, ship and aircraft related professionals. Okay, so that's another reason. So because men and women tend to take on different kinds of jobs, so that could contribute to the different pay. And then the next, move on to the next one. Yeah. Even within the same occupation or within the same organization, some people may reflect that there's less promotion opportunities for women than for men. Okay, so this is a result reported by McKinsey in 2021, one of the survey about the women in the workplace. Okay, so according to McKinsey's report, for every 100 men promoted to management level, only 86 women have been promoted. Okay, so this just shows us some very basic picture. Okay, maybe less promotional opportunities. And then related to this less promotion opportunities, if you take a look at the leadership roles adopted by women, we can also see that women remain underrepresented across the corporate ladder. Okay, so if you look at this data reported by the Global Gender Gap Report in 2020, you will see women, there will be small percentage of women taking on the leadership roles, okay, at different level across this organizational ladder. So all of these data just tells us such a overall picture, which is women really face some challenges in the workplace, be it pay gap or lower pay occupation or less promotion opportunities or less leadership roles. Okay, so, but the question would be, so why? Or if we go back to this page, you probably find out, or some of our gentlemen may also reflect, so we are also facing such challenges. True, exactly. Okay, but why we link these challenges, particularly with women? It's probably because these challenges is really related to the tension between our traditional organizational model, which is based on the breadwinner model, and women's multiple roles in larger life context. Okay, so here, what is this breadwinner model? Okay, so in the past thousands of years of human history, you will see in majority of the countries, there was such breadwinner model in which men delegate the family responsibilities to women. So put it simply, man goes out to work and earn money, and woman stays at home and take care of the family. Okay, so because of this labor division, there will be such expectation that if you want to work in the workplace, you should give this complete availability. Anytime when you are called, you should be available. And then of course, based on this assumption that the organization is designed in such a corporate convenient framework, okay, which is why flexibility may not be available in every organization, and even it is available in the organization, sometimes it is penalized. Okay, and another thing related to this breadwinner model is due to that so many male dominate in the workplace. Okay, so women will have limited networking opportunities with the same gender. But all of us, we know that in the corporate world, it is so important to have all of those formal and informal network. Okay, so without this network, it is very difficult to advance the career. Okay, so this would be the breadwinner model. But in contrast, if you take a look at what women are doing, so yes, true, more and more women are involved into the workplace and contribute to our society. But at the same time, we're also committing a lot into the family, okay, the family responsibility or the caregiving responsibility, okay, which is the first and foremost, okay, important thing, okay, in the women's life context, care responsibility. Okay, so here again, I would like to share some data with our audience. So this data comes again from Singapore, Ministry of Social and Family Development. Okay, so if you look at this bar charts, okay, I would like you to focus on the first two sets of bar chart. Okay, you can see proportion of this of married working respondents will indicate that they are equally or primarily responsible for caregiving responsibility and housework. You can see much more women claim that they are equally or primarily responsible for this caregiving responsibility and housework. Okay, so that just gives us such an idea that true, women typically play the primary role in caregiving responsibilities. And I myself totally agree. And because of this, the consequence would be it's more likely that women will take time off from work to take care of their family. Okay. And then also it is shown by the data, which is also reported by Singapore. Okay, so if you take a look at the average hours worked, full-time resident employees, you can see men spend much longer time, okay, in workplace than women do. Okay. Why? Because women have to take time off, taking care of the children, taking care of the family members, taking care of the family chores. Okay. So, and then because of these care responsibilities, so many of us may have such a so-called as the unentitlement mindset. So what is this unentitlement mindset? Put it simply, I don't deserve it. Okay, I deserve less. Why? Okay, when we have to spend time taking care of the family instead of committing into our organization, so we probably have to, for example, utilize some of the flexible work arrangement, which nowadays many modern organizations are offering. Okay, we are happy that they are there. But when we utilize it, we probably feel that it seems that we are weak and we have got special treatment. And because we have got this special treatment, then we probably don't deserve others like promotion or more financial rewards. And another thing related to this unentitlement mindset would be the maternity leave. Okay, as women, we undertake such responsibility related to the reproduction. Okay, so women, when they take this maternity leave after giving birth, okay, there will be such assumption within the organization or even by this single woman that I or this woman will not be able to assume the same responsibilities that they had prior to taking this maternity leave. Okay, and due to this, I will not ask for any promotion. I will not ask for more money. Okay, so this again leads to this unentitlement mindset. And related to this unentitlement mindset, both research and also from my own observation and probably from our own reflection, we probably find out many women, they do less self-promotion. Okay, so which means there will be lower level of self-advocacy among women. Okay, so again, let's look at some interesting data. So the first data reported by Professor Christine Exley and Professor Judd Kessler, two professors from Harvard Business School and Wharton Business School. Okay, they said that men rate their performances 33% higher than equally performing women. Okay, so just give us such an idea that for many women, we tend to underestimate our contribution. So probably we have factored in that we are utilizing some flexible arrangement, or we may have to commit also into the family life. Okay, but basically underestimation exists. And then more than that, 44% of women would expect their hard work to be recognized as a signal, okay, for their promotion aspiration. And they hope their boss will approach them and ask them to put in a promotion application. Okay, so it's really low level of the self-promotion. Okay, so this is probably due to the, some psychological traits, okay, of many women, but it is there. So due to this less self-promotion, okay, so this will again put women into some disadvantaged situation because this could reinforce some unconscious bias or some stereotype held by the manager. Okay, so some manager may say that women, they just don't want to get a promotion, or their performance is not as good. Okay, so this will be some bad consequence. So having shared all of the data and having shared all of this information, hopefully that we can agree that yes, we are facing some challenges in our workplace. Okay, and we have to acknowledge that yes, it is true that we are living our life and we are in such a larger life context, which goes against the traditional breadwinner model. Then what can we do? Okay, what can we do? So this scholar, okay, they have come out with such a career model, which could give us some hints. Okay, so if we look into our life stage, we probably can find out that when we go into different life stage, we could have different priorities. For example, when we are young, we are at the early stage of our career, we would like to take on more challenges to make a difference for ourselves, for our companies, for our world. Okay, but when we go into such a stage where we form our family, we have children, we have to take care of the family members, maybe balancing all different needs will be the priority. Okay, but of course, when we are free from all of these responsibilities, we could go into this authenticity stage where we want to seek for this self-fulfillment. Okay, at that time, we probably can continue our career aspiration. But no matter which stage we are in, okay, so it is very important for us to understand that we have to be confident, we have to be brave, we have to be speaking out for ourselves. Okay, and then more than that, from the organization's perspective, so organization could do better in terms of factor in these diversified career paths by women, for example. So try to remove those stereotypes consciously and then try to come up with such a transparent performance evaluation system so that the women can gauge their contribution fairly. And then it will be also good if the organization can provide more opportunities for networking for the women. Okay, so these would be what I would like to share with our audience, and thank you everyone. Now I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Sherry Orr. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Peng Ji, for the very informative presentation. You touched on a lot of points that I completely agree with, and I'm probably gonna hammer that in during my talk. Just want to make sure that you can all see my slides and hear me fine. Great. Okay. So I'm very excited to be here and to share some of my thoughts on working women's progress, and my topic would really center around work-family balance. Work-family dynamics is one of the primary areas of research interest. So it's like, I'm really very excited for this. I struggled to keep this short. I will try to keep within my time frame. So in my discussion, it is kind of like an overview of what I wanted to cover today. First, I want to take stock, right? How much progress have we made in advancing gender equality in the workplace? What areas could call for more improvement? And I wanted to delve deeper into this second half on like the areas for improvement with some statistics on gender and work-family balance, and especially in light of the pandemic, a spotlight on remote working, the flexible work arrangements, right? How has it changed work-family dynamics? And finally, I'll end off with some of my thoughts on how we could try to choose to challenge against gender stereotypes and so on. So where are we now in terms of gender equality in the workplace? There are some good news. Across the Asia Pacific, there has been improvements in public and society's support of gender equality in the workplace. So like May has said in the beginning, we have really made strides in the last few decades, making room and kind of showing that women do belong in the workplace. So there has been a shift from the traditional gender beliefs that women should belong at the home. There's a shift from the male breadwinner family structure to more dual earner households, and this reflects the increasing female labor participation rates in the workforce. So I wanted to take some time to show some data from the McKinsey World Values Survey. I'm displaying just a few countries here. There's a very extensive list. My apologies to anyone whose country was not included. So across Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand, most survey respondents actually disagreed with the notion that when mothers work for pay, their children suffer. So this is a very encouraging sign, in my opinion, right? It shows that more people are accepting that women's careers do not come at a cost for their children's well-being. And as a mother of a toddler myself, I feel a bit better about to see this. The results of this second question are a little more mixed. So majority of respondents from Australia, Singapore, and Thailand would disagree that men have more rights to a job compared to women when jobs are scarce. While respondents from Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam actually believe that perhaps men should continue to be the breadwinner. It is more important for men rather than women to have jobs in times of economic downturn. So this statement reflects that, yes, there's a growing recognition on how women have an equal right to work, just as men do. But there are still some countries where women might face greater challenges in their careers during economic downturns, whether this means that they might be the first to be laid off or the last to be hired. So this is something that we need to take note of. And the final graph here I wanted to show you was on perceptions of women leaders. This speaks to career advancement. Respondents here agree or disagree with the statement, men make better leaders than women. So again, majority of respondents in Australia, Singapore, and Thailand would disagree with that statement, while respondents from Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam have somewhat of a more traditional view that perhaps men have greater ability or characteristics that exemplify leadership. And these are some of the stereotypes and perceptions that we would wish to challenge. So while there have been some strides made in terms of workplace equality, right, we have shown that women are having a greater footprint in the workplace. What about at home? Peng Ji has highlighted some of these unbalanced responsibilities, and I wanted to kind of expand on these statistics that she has shown as well. Gender differences in the family domain continue to persist. Globally, women do majority of the unpaid work at home. For example, in the Asia Pacific region, women actually spend 4.1 times more on household and caregiving work compared to men. This UN graphic on the slide here shows about slightly more than twice. In the United States, women also do about almost twice as much housework compared to men, reporting how much housework they do. And this has implications for women's career progression. So a Deloitte 2021 survey actually found that 34% of women respondents felt that having caregiving and household duties could be one of the main reasons for poor career advancement, because they had to split their effort and their time. And unfortunately, many of these gender stereotypes or responsibilities of what a husband and a wife should be doing tends to be ingrained in our childhood. It tends to be sort of internalized. That women's careers are supposed to take a backseat to their husbands. Women are expected to take on that caregiving role, whether is it for the children, for the elderly, for the sick, even at the expense of their careers. And conversely, men are expected to prioritize their careers, even at the expense of their familial roles. So what does this mean for women, their careers, and their families? So for example, having to do most of that heavy lifting on the household tasks, such as cooking dinner after work, has commonly been described as the double shift. So women work a full day in the office, they go home, and then they work some more. They do the housework, they do childcare. And many women across the globe have experienced higher levels of stress and burnout from doing this double duty. The experience of this double shift and the underlying gender stereotypes is also one of the reasons why women have actually been observed to drop out of the workforce at higher rates than men after having children. And even when they do choose to return to the workforce after 1-2 years away, they are expected to take lesser pay because that time gap has affected their experiences somehow. Working mothers are also viewed as less committed and less competent in the eyes of employers compared to working fathers and single employees. And these perceptions can hinder hiring and career advancement for working mothers. So I know this is International Women's Day and it's championing women, but it's really about championing gender equality. So I wouldn't want to neglect how gender stereotypes can also unfairly affect men. So while working mothers are viewed as less competent in the workplace, men actually face a backlash in the home domain, and they're viewed as less competent or even less essential in the family. So this has serious negative consequences for their familial relationships and behaviors, and can be seen as some sort of like a cycle, right? Men put in less effort at home, women have to put in more work, and then it's a kind of self-reinforcing cycle. So one major area of that I found very interesting when I see the statistics is, I think, paternity leave. So now we have greater recognition that fathers have an important role in the family. There are more countries, there are more organizations offering paternity leave for new fathers, but the actual take-up rate for paternity leave is much lower than expected. So in Singapore, the latest statistics that we have in 2019 is that only 55% of eligible fathers took paternity leave. This figure was higher in the civil service, I think about 84%. But in general, when you include the private sector, that drops to about 55%, and it was even lower previous years. In the UK, only 1% of eligible dads actually took paternity leave in 2018. And in the US, taking as little leave as possible has been described as a badge of honor. So the Pew Research Center also found that, you see the graph over here, about 1 in 7 respondents felt that fathers should not be able to take paternity leave. So there are still persistent comments that the newborn period is solely for the mother and the child. It neglects the very important role that dads should have to play in not just supporting the mother, but also bonding with their children. So these are some really ingrained societal stereotypes. And these frankly, very pitiful figures are part of the, also have some workplace pressures on men to not take paternity leave. So for those who take paternity leave, they are seen as less committed to their workplace. The resistance from managers and co-workers who even, tell their male colleagues that your wives should be the one handling this, you don't need paternity leave. And many men therefore actually fear sort of backlash in terms of promotion opportunities, the performance appraisal that comes with taking what their entitled paternity is like. Even for those who actually take paternity leave, it doesn't reflect in the figures, but we do notice a pattern where you feel guilty for leaving work to your colleagues. You try to still work during your paternity leave. And needless to say, this is not an ideal situation for families. It only serves to exacerbate the men should still be working kind of stereotype and norm. Okay, so before I move on to what we can do to address these challenges, I wanted to go into a little bit more detail into remote working. So I found that the pandemic has really changed our working world in many ways. Remote work is one of the major changes to the workplace. And the pandemic has actually shown us, like many jobs can actually be done remotely. And now as we shift towards living with COVID, employees are reluctant to part with remote working. They still want to work from home, right? You don't need to commute an hour to get to the office and such. So more firms are offering the option to work remotely. You offer increased flexibility for employees to manage their work schedules. And pertinent to our topic today is how remote working has actually changed or has not changed work-family dynamics. Remote working has been sort of seen like a double-edged sword, like a blessing and a curse for working parents who now have the flexibility to manage both work and life, not just their family, but life in general on their own terms, increases autonomy and such, so they feel more empowered. But at the same time, there is now this pressure of being always on, always connected. There's an inability to detach from the workplace, to recover. Whereas in the past, you just leave a laptop in the office, you can go home and watch TV or something. Now you might still feel compelled to reply a few emails. And this has poor implications for well-being in general, men and women alike. At the same time, remote working has also exacerbated gender inequality. And there are still imbalances in care responsibilities and work scheduling when it comes to remote working. So I want to highlight a couple of research studies that have been done during the COVID period. Some organizational psychology research has found that when working from home, women actually report greater non-work interruptions than men. So this highlights how women and mothers tend to be the go-to person at home for snacks, for help, looking for my socks and so on. And it can be difficult for working mothers to establish work-family boundaries when working from home. And I kind of speak this from experience as well, because my son will look for me instead of his father when it comes to we're trying to split our responsibilities at home when school was closed. So these interruptions in general actually predict higher work-family conflict, greater emotional exhaustion. It negatively affects employees' job performance. So even if it's just a request for help on something, a 1-minute interruption, you break your train of thought, you come back and you have to restart again. Just these minor things can build up to a lot across the workday. So in the words of the authors of this study, these interruptions serve as another source of gender inequity because the burden of non-work interruptions are not shared equally between men and women. And another example, almost 40% of dual earner couples with children studied during lockdown actually reported a sort of remote wife does it all situation. Another 44% had a bit more egalitarian division of responsibilities. So women in the do it all category actually had the lowest well-being and job performance, whereas the more egalitarian division best preserved both the wives and the husband's well-being and job performance. More generally, women also report facing greater expectations to kind of reschedule their work commitments to meet family needs, especially in these COVID days, right? The kid is sick, preschool is closed or something, and this can receive a backlash from co-workers and supervisors. A final point about remote working post-pandemic is that remote working is no longer mandated, but it's often a choice or an option. And women more so than men are actually more likely to take up these flexible arrangements, particularly if they have young children or elderly to take care of. But that said, there is a backlash. So employees who opt for remote working are perceived as less committed, they are less motivated, they're not motivated. Their work performance is not so visible because you're working from home, nobody can tell how much you're doing, and therefore they experience lower wage growth. So the Society for Human Resource Management has also found that managers view remote workers as poor performers. They are more easily replaceable. They have their remote, and that remote working actually hinders career advancement. So again, this would have implications for how the different genders are viewed and prioritized when it comes to hiring and promotion opportunities. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me so far. I'm not sure what the time check is. I hope I still have some time. The final bit of my presentation, I wanted to talk about what we can do as individuals, as members of society, as members of organizations in challenging these gender inequities. So first, we need to collectively and consciously challenge societal norms. Now that we have highlighted a few gender disparities, how can say, for example, our spouses make the effort to share the mental and emotional load at home? But that said, that is perhaps, it seems like the most straightforward way to challenge gender stereotypes, but it may be sort of like easier said than done kind of strategy. Because, just simply telling women, why don't you ask your husband to do more? That shifts some of the blame onto women themselves. It makes them feel like, your partners are not helping, your partners are not cooperating. And this can produce sort of an us versus them divide, when really the couple should be working as a team. They should be using whatever strategy is best for them and their familial situation. This also ignores how many gender norms are entrenched in our minds, in our societies, in the workplaces, such as the discussion on paternity leave earlier, when men actually face a backlash for wanting to spend time with their families. And so it's not enough to just say like, your spouse needs to help you, but women need support from the whole system around them, whether you are, like grandmothers, your uncles, your aunties, and so on, your companies, your co-workers, your supervisors. And as a society, we need to work to challenge these norms about the roles of men and women at work and at home. A second thing that I wanted to talk about is to model equality norms at home. Many of these gender norms are ingrained since childhood, and it's up to us to show our children how moms and dads can work together to share work and household responsibilities, that there is no shame in men taking time off work to play a bigger role at home. So this picture here in the slide is actually from a picture book that I recently read with my son. And this book really stood out to me because, in this family of cats, Mama Cat is going to work at a construction site, no less. And Papa Cat is a stay-at-home dad taking care of his lovely kittens. So this might just be like, a picture book. But to me, these are small steps in the right direction, showing our kids representations of diverse families and family roles. As a kid, when I was growing up, I vividly remember my elder brother, telling me that, I should be the one cleaning up the dishes because that's a woman's job. And I kicked him very hard in an unmentionable place. But, these sorts of things are, okay, noted on the timing. These are sorts of the things that are ingrained since childhood and that we need to try to challenge as even for our children. Okay, I think this is my last slide. So finally, what are some ways in which employers and supervisors can support women and gender equality in the workplace? So firstly, we need to normalize remote work. So there's increasing accessibility to flexible work arrangements is one step in the right direction, but also our perceptions as to who takes up remote work and to support both men and women in managing their work and family responsibilities. Peng Ji has also mentioned, right, setting objective, transparent performance benchmarks, clear communication norms and expectations for both off-site and on-site workers. For example, having expectations about when are we supposed to reply to emails can help to clear up some ambiguity surrounding the always-on culture. Having regular check-ins with managers as well, encourage networks of support among working parents, sharing personal stories and so on. And finally, organizations can provide more resources such as learning and developmental opportunities for women. So thank you for listening to my presentation segment, and please welcome Dr. Polly Ng as our next speaker.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sherry. Very insightful and informative. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Great. So happy International Women's Day and good afternoon to you all. And also good evening and good morning for those in other part of the world. Thanks for joining us. I am going to take this conversation from a different perspective and do a sharing from the few experiences of my own and also Global Women Connect platform. So I'm going to talk about the experiences in terms of our challenges, but also how some of the women, successful women, deal with the challenges and choose to challenge. And later on, I also want to focus on to discuss about the uniqueness and the strength of women and how we make an impact to the world. So let me see how I can move this up. Okay. I'd like to begin with a story of my own. 12 years ago, when I was just promoted from the Asia Pacific Regional Business General Manager to become a global director, I went to study a global EMBA. So we have classmates all over the world. We went to many countries to study. And one thing very interesting, everywhere we go, no matter developed country or developing countries, there's a big debate and discussion about women in business and women leadership. That kind of grabbed my attention. And then in the same year, I was invited to an interview about women leader. The professor asked me, Polly, do you think you are very lucky? I could not understand why this question at first. And then I thought, oh, she meant that I'm a woman and a young Chinese woman, and I can achieve to become a global director level of a Fortune 500 company. So that's the bias people in the mind. So I thought, okay, yes, she's right and she's correct. And particularly my business is in the IT industry. So my colleagues, my team, my business partner, my clients, majority of them are men. So basically in a man-dominated industry. But because of that, I found Global Women Connect with the mission to support women globally at different stages of life to unleash our potential. And the vision is very simple. We like to enable every woman can contribute to create a better world. So the question that the professor asked me, and if you ask me now, did I really not encounter any gender challenge through my career life? No, I actually encountered a lot. Particularly, there are a lot of external forces and gender bias and stereotype put on us, as the two other professors they mentioned. For example, one of my, many years ago, I went to Taiwan for business review together with my two other colleagues. They are men. And one of them is a foreigner, a Dutch, very tall. So we walk in the office of our business partner. And you know what? They thought I was the secretary of the men bosses. and they treat me like a secretary. So then, okay, it was a bit odd. But anyway, I was the one to lead the discussion. I did not have time to think all about, the discrimination or the biases. My focus is about how we can resolve the problem, how we can create the value, how we can make a win-win situation together with the partners. So meaning throughout my career, even though a lot of agenda challenges, all that Sherry and Benji mentions, I did not have time to really feel sorry about that because I was busy thinking about how to create values. And of course, I acknowledge all those challenges, but I can admit that I have to work harder than many other people in order to achieve that. But it's okay because the value that I'm focusing. But one thing I would like to share, this kind of external forces like gender bias is not only about, because of the history, because of the culture and how the society impose on us or men impose on us. There's actually gender bias also come from women. I want to share another story. There's an event that we have the female partners of venture capitalists to share their challenges. Because back then, women achieve partner level in the VC industry has been challenging. So we have great sharing. And then by the end of that, we ask, would you invest in women business, women entrepreneur? They said no. So you can see some of the stereotype and biases is unconscious and also from women. That's the most challenging when we are dealing with our own challenges, but we also have put on certain colors, and colors on our same gender. And of course, because of the additional roles and responsibility, those are, no matter it's imposed by the society or us, we feel that we have the strong responsibility to do the household work and being, take care of the family also. Let's make our work life and work family challenge even worse than the men. However, I want to share how some of our very successful female leaders within GWC platform, what are their choices? They have different choices and how they deal with that. Some of them, they've been very successful and they admit they could not provide quantity of time to the family and the children because of the demand of their career, because they are the very, that's why they achieve the top level. So I noticed there's one common phenomenon. This type of group of female, they really concentrate and focus on the quality of time with the children and the family. Some of the things that Dr. Sherry also mentioned, how you could show a good example in the family between, husband and wife to the children. It's so important. It's the quality. And more than that, one of our mentee, she actually came to me to thank me because she was the Asia finance director of a very, very big retail company. And because of the mentoring program, she applied to us and, her mentor helped her go through all the company challenges and changes. She then became the Asia CFO of the company. But then she came to me to thank me. At the same time, she said, Polly, you know what? I've been devoting my time for the career and also for the family and my children. I don't have anything for myself. And that time I gave her the book, The Power of Habit. After she read that, she came to me again. She said, Polly, you know what? Every day I wake up at least half hour, 30 minutes earlier. So do something I like. I want to do something, for example, reading, exercise, something that I really like. Just half hour, but make her feel fulfillment. Of course, we also have other female leaders because of different situations in different contexts, right? They have different choices. Some of them, they are very strong as well, but they make a deliberate choice to not work as full-time, but take care, put more time to the family and the children for a period of time. But after that, they still, if they have the desire to achieve in the career goal, they came back to the career and work through the career path and still very successful right now. So to me, One thing, I always think work-life balance is not necessary every day or from 9 to 6 p.m. Life is too long. Work-life balance can be, as Professor Panji said, it's a period of time. And for a certain period, there's certain priority in our life we focus in. And I like to use a quote from one of our mentees. She said, my dream is to achieve a work-life balance that is not ultimately depending on the number of annual leaves that I have. She is very true, because work-life balance is more about the meaning, the purpose, the fulfillment that we have from career, from life, and also from family. And there's no single choice towards that. Okay, we talk about the external challenge imposed in us. However, I find it interesting. Majority of the challenges for women also come from within, from our internal. Professor Panji mentioned about unentitlement mindset. At the same time, there are also a lot of women have self-confidence and self-bias issue, no matter conscious or unconscious. During our Europe chapter launch event in London in 2019, so we have a big group of people to discuss about this topic. And an executive director of a research firm, executive research firm, she said, Polly, I really want to hire female CEO. However, majority of the women are not confident they can become a CEO. And so she said, I can't hire a CEO who is not confident in herself. That's my challenge. So that gave a very, big insight for us. A lot of women, when we apply for a job, a position, or pay rise, most of the time we think we have to meet 80, 90 or more percentage of the requirement before we are confident to apply. But for men, even though they only achieve 60% of the requirement, they will apply for the position confidently and learn on the job. So sometimes we have to deal with our own, bias first. And a lot of time we may have some fear and a self-talk within us. One of the mentees, she come to me and, saying she has been struggling for so long about whether decide to study an MBA or not, because she has the fear if she cannot master between study and her career, because she has a good career at the moment. And that's been bothering her for quite a long period. She had the uncertainty ahead, all the fear and so. And then on that spot, I asked her, think 5 and 10 years from now, will you regret if you did not study an MBA? She says, yes, I will regret. So that she got her answer. And she made it. She did MBA. She's still flourishing in her professional life. That is important. So on GWC platform, we are very lucky for those who came to join and apply to become our members of the Global Mentoring Program. They're quite similar. They have a growth mindset. Instead of thinking about gender inequality, discrimination, they mostly focus, the challenges they want support, want help. It's more about their self-growth. For example, career advancement, how they can be a better manager, because have improved their leadership skill. Some of them, they actually acknowledge they have self-confidence and self-bias issue as well. Similar what we have at the poll at the very beginning, right? The people are very focused on the challenge of career advancement and also self-confidence and biases. Okay, and only one of them mentioned about gender inequality, but she framed it in a very impactful way. She said, my dream is to make an impact to my community. And she wants to show that women can do as much as men by, demolishing every expectation on her as a woman. How she achieved that? She wanted through the power of her mental resources and through the hard work that she do. That is important because we understand that, of course, the world is evolving and changing and becoming better, but it takes time. At GWC, we know that we can't change things overnight, and we can't handhold a woman to walk through her life, right? So, but what we can give is that to enable women believe in ourselves, work through the challenges, because we have to handle our own life. Now, let's focus on the uniqueness and strength as a woman. So when members apply to join our program, we ask them to use 3 words to describe themselves. And this is how the mentee applicants, female mentee applicants reply. Open-minded, positive, passionate, kind, enthusiastic, empathetic, ambitious, responsible, reliable, curious. And this is how the female mentor, senior female leaders reply, describe themselves. Similar, passion, authentic, open, positive. They also have persistence and resilience and many more. So those are all the beauty and great characteristics of women. One of our mentors, he shared, is a male mentor. He was the president, China president of a very big company. And in one of our events, he shared, you know what, I observed a very interesting phenomenon within his business team. So there's a men's business people and a women salespeople. The men salesperson are very competitive and aggressive to grab every single opportunity. However, the women salespeople look like less aggressive, but interesting, they are very collaborative. So meaning when they reach out to the market, they send certain opportunity and market information. They come back and share with the other female colleagues. And so this mentor, this president, let the phenomenon evolve because he found it interesting. And they see how it came up. By the end of the year, he looked at the business result and he figured that out. The women group outperforms the men's group. That's interesting. Another story is about a successful entrepreneur from India. And he said, Polly, I like to hire women employees. A majority of my employees are women. I asked why. He said, because women are more honest, sincere, and authentic. And they are extremely productive. I said, why? Because women have additional responsibility. They need to leave work on time. So within the working hour, they're extremely productive to achieve the result they need to do. So that's why he liked to hire women. So think about that. We have all the characteristics that we have. And I'd like to share a survey by Deloitte about professional women at work, how they define success. Women nowadays actually redefine success. It's not like the tradition about money, career achievement, or power. On top of the list is the self-actualization and dream. And one of my research also making similar results. The Deloitte research is in China, the context in China. So here is my research about foreign entrepreneur, female entrepreneur came to China. The reason they came to China to start a business. Same, self-achievement, actualization, autonomy, and independency. And one of the female entrepreneurs she mentioned within her female entrepreneur network, said, you know, female entrepreneur also start business out of their goodness and because they want to do something good to the society. And look at this. Oh, sorry. When we ask our member, what is the biggest dream? More than 50% of the female members, they said they want to make a social impact, no matter to help a specific group, female, young children, minority, animal, or environmental. Women think big, really big impact. So those are the great characteristics of us. So lastly, I would like to share a story to close that. This photo was taken in 2007. We were at the Outward Bound leadership training with our different business leader and our middle management. So 20 to 30 of us in total, and majority of us are men. So the one on the picture is me. So jumping from one to the other side, it looks extremely easy, but it was not. In reality, it's very tall, very, very high. And all of us, including all men, we are scared. We thought we could not jump, from the one side to the other. No one dared to take the first move. People were talking and very scared. At that point, I thought, okay, if I can, as a woman, and I am relatively short, I can make it through, all of them will also think they have confidence to do that. So because of that, I overcome my fear. My target and goal is very important. It's very clear. I will jump it and I will make it successful. And I did the first jump and everyone thinks, it's easy job and they can make it. My point is that to be our self-believer is the first thing we have to do to make the world more inclusive as a woman. The world is changing, but we can't wait until the world changes to become a better place for us, but we can make a better place for ourselves. That's my sharing. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Polly. Perfect timing, 24 seconds to go before the end of the 20 minutes. Very, very inspiring speeches from our three speakers. I just want to share a story, a very short one, don't worry. Today it is the International Women's Day. So I told my daughter, who's 8 and 11, I say, hey girls, today is International Women's Day. We should be very proud to be women because we're celebrating, being a woman, etc., etc. My older daughter, who's very, very smart and quick, she immediately turned around and say, so you mean 364 days are International Men's Days? How can it be possible, So it does tell you in terms of that mindset, you're absolutely right, all the three speakers have touched on it, that we are very much, we ourselves, women, are entrenched in these biases and stereotyping ourselves. And as a result, doubt that we can do things because we've been brought up. All of us are Asians here. We grew up with Asian parents. We've been brought up to say that you're a woman, you should be at home. Your aim is to stay at home and take care of the kids, etc., etc. But obviously, Singapore has, it's a very different place now in terms of our upbringing, in terms of the growth, in terms of the gender equality as well. And I'm very, very pleased today. We have about 65 people in the room attending this seminar. I wouldn't say majority are men, but I say there's a good number of men. And I always believe, and I believe everybody in this room, that, it's not just about the woman, it's about the men as well. We do have a Q&A column. So for those of you who would like to raise questions, please type in your questions there. And for those of you panelists who would like to answer the question, do also let me know so that I can highlight who to answer as well. I'll give you guys about 2 minutes to type in on questions, and then we will allocate the answers to the different panelists. Have a look now. And in the meantime, I will raise some questions myself because, as I mentioned earlier, when I was in University of Nottingham, Ningbo, China, where I get to know Polly, I do drive the diversity and equity group in China, trying to really look at the challenges and issues for female colleagues, particularly in the higher education sector. And I think there was a question about academics. What kind of, how does it play out in terms of the gender inequality as well as the different roles? Personally, I'm a female. I share this story myself quite a few times. People always ask me, how do you manage to raise from where you are within 12 years from assistant professor to the second person in the university, at the same time having 2 kids, a very loving family. What's your secret? How do you do it? And I always like to say, always begin by saying, it's because I chose the right partner. And I agree with Sherry. Sherry, you mentioned about your partner is important. You're a team. You have to come together. And you're absolutely right. The right partner makes a huge difference in terms of letting you expand your wing and do the best you could in your career, or they will clip yours. It's really about your partner's support of who you are. So for all the single ladies out there, you still have a chance. Choose the right partner who believe who you are, who give you the confidence and who support, what you really want to do in that sense. Yeah? So that's the first thing. I'm just going to say one last thing before I look at the Q&A. The second thing is that today is International Women's Day as well. You know, social media is going crazy with all those posters and quotes and beautiful pictures of flowers, etc., etc. I found one particular one very catching. It says, be a good mother, be a good worker, be a good housewife, and be a good something. And then there was this huge crossed out, you know, in that sense. And finally, the lady, the poster replaced it, be yourself, which is really important, right? We've been brought up again as women that we should be a good mom, we should be a good worker, we should fulfill and be a good daughter, right? We have to be the care responsibility for our parents. It's always expected the woman will do it instead of the son. So there's this expectation of we to be good at, you know, certain roles. And at the end of the day, what Polly says is absolutely right. In one of the examples, we have to be ourselves. We have to give time to ourselves. We have to really think for ourselves at times. And that's why, I mean, I woke up early. Yes, people say I'm crazy. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because I want time for myself. I go running. That helps me to clear my mind, help me to focus on what I'm really thinking about, and in terms of work or family or whatever, it doesn't matter. But giving time to yourself, it's really, really important. Okay, any panelists want to jump in now before I call upon some of us to answer the questions? Anyone? No? Okay, so we have 11 questions. We will not be able to take all of them, but you can see them, they are grouped in terms of quite interesting. I think Steve is really passionate about, you know, these challenges and issues raised here. So what I'm going to do here is, and there are some comments which has no, not really asking a question. So I would just like to call Sherry first, because there are a couple of questions you have indicated that you would like to answer, and then followed by Kim Ji. And hopefully we don't close. We hope we have enough time for another round. And Polly could just jump in at any time when you want. Sherry, please be concise because we do have quite a few questions to cover. Thank you.
I'll take that as a note on the volubility that I have. Okay, so I just want to address Steve's question first. I thought that was an excellent question, and it was also kind of surprising, right? This is a gender forum and gender equality is very low. My initial guesses is that perhaps it's due to the nature and perception of what gender equality issues revolve around. So gender equality tends not to be something that's kind of at the forefront of our minds all the time. We think of specific problems, quote unquote, to do, career advancement, mental health, work-life balance. These are more salient, more so-called troubling and immediate challenges. Whereas gender seems to be a bit more pervasive, subtle effects. It may not be in play now. We can't tell when, whether is it really gender is the one that's causing the issues, the problems that we are facing. So we tend to look more at the visible problems. Another reason could be that, you know, a lot of stereotypes and societal norms seem to be taken for granted, that they are the default situation. So we may not really question or even be aware that men and women are perceived differently or treated differently. And so it's taken as this is a problem, but it has nothing to do with gender. So perhaps that's just really the perception of gender issues. Or as when we think of gender issues, we think of like, oh, it's actively discrimination. And that's not something that tends to be really visible or very common. So that's just kind of my answer to that. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think that's great, Sherry. There's another one that you mentioned you wanted to answer. Is that correct?
Oh yes. Second one was Abhishek. Yes. Okay. Let me just continue to babble on then. So again, thank you, Abhishek, for the question. Frankly, I think that there has been some benefits to remote working in that there's an increasing recognition as to, you know, the fact that housework is work. It's not just something to do like later when the kids are asleep or something. And that it's also, we're also acknowledging that perhaps housework has been undervalued as more, you know, like calling it unpaid care work. There's a stress on the fact that we have been undervaluing and underestimating the time we need to perform housework. And during the pandemic, I feel that men have really had the opportunity to step up to help, and they have really been able to do so, at least from my perspective, right? The interesting thing would be to see whether or not this change actually persists over time, or whether families default back to gender roles. My assumption here is that perhaps a lot of our internal stereotypes can be very slow to change. So even for me and like personal reflection, theoretically, I know that the household work can be split. My husband has been helping to hang the laundry, do the dishes. He's cooking while I'm doing this presentation. So that's great. But at the same time, when we talk about, like trying to flexibly change, modify our schedules to suit one another, there's always this sense of guilt within me still, that, he had to accommodate me. There's a sense of guilt that I wasn't able to do it, or like he had to put the kid to bed. So some things like that tend to nag at you in the back of your mind. And like theoretically, logically, I know that, hey, it's an equal household, but at the same time, you still feel these sorts of things. So stereotypes probably change at a very glacial pace. It takes a long time to combat. That's kind of my...
And thanks, Sherry. This leads back to what Polly was saying, right? It's internal, right? It's us, it's like nagging at the back of our head. And I'm the same, do you know, I mean, not a lot of people know this, but I cook dinner every night. Doesn't matter, like what Polly said, we are very efficient. That's why I work from 8 all the way till 4:35 max. I come back home. I do the double shift, but I don't see it as double shift because I love cooking myself. But you're absolutely right. Some people just say this is too stressful, etc., etc. Ping Ji, I'm going to call on you, and then very quickly, Polly, there's a question in the answered section who asked about enough women who are ready to be mentors. I've asked you to answer that question, so you have a quick look. While Ping Ji, please, there are a couple of questions you indicated that you would like to answer. Is that right, Ping Ji?
Yes. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So first question I'm going to address is coming from Abhishek. So from the practitioner's point of view, how to undo the unentitlement and lack of perception. So I think this is a very, very interesting question. So so several things could be done. First thing, I think both Sherry and we have mentioned that there should be such a transparent performance evaluation system in which there is a transparent benchmark, transparent process, and transparent expectation being communicated and enforced so that the contributions from both men and women can be fairly evaluated and can be fairly rewarded. And then second, some research has shown that the director or direct supervisors' attitudes really matter in terms of to what extent that the employees would like to take on this flexible work arrangement. So this applies to both men and women. So if the direct supervisor does not show this encouragement or the positive attitudes towards, this work flexibility, so it is very likely that whoever who are taking on this flexible work arrangement will be afraid that they will be penalized, and then they will feel that I don't deserve the other type of the reward. So direct supervisor would play a very important role. And then again, another thing would be, some research has shown that why women tend to do less self-promotion is because from the data, it's reported that the women are more penalized than men when they self-promote themselves. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting insight. That's yes.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I can share a story. You are so right.
Okay.
Please go ahead, Wes.
Okay, so of course this kind of over penalized on women. So it could come from some of the bias, some of the stereotypes that already exist in our mind. So it is important for all of the people to change or to reframe their mindset. Okay, so to reduce such a penalty. Okay, and of course others would be, say, as women. So sometimes we have this unentitlement because of some internalized mindset. So as Polly has shared, right? So we have to really, although Polly, you don't encourage us to do some self-talking, but I think some positive self-talking would be useful. And of course, yeah, so the organizations could also provide some of the training and development program to really reinforce such a, positive attitudes towards this self-promotion. So that is some answers to Abhishek's question. And then I think just a quick one, Ping Ji. Yeah, I want to move it to Polly quickly. Yeah, just quickly. Yeah. I think one thing I think I already put in the answer. So some audience is asking about the situation in academic. I don't have exact data, but I know there's some research showing that during the COVID period, female academics really publish less and take on less projects as compared to men. I hope that answers the question. Yeah. Thank
You're
you.
actually right, Kim Ji. Before I pass it to Polly, it's true that there are less female professors in the world. When I was promoted to a professor in Nottingham, I was one of the 3 professors in the whole university, female professors. So you can imagine it's really very biased. And it's even worse in STEM. You know, the engineering faculty is much worse there. So absolutely, academic world is very different in that sense. I was laughing when you're talking about, you know, we get penalized for self-promotion. I just have to share this story. It's very interesting. I've learned from experience. I realized if a male boss is making a very difficult decision, is sacking people for the sake of having to do so. And the reaction was very good. It was like, oh, he's a very visionary leader. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's saving the institution, yada, yada, yada. And when I make a similar decision in terms of decisiveness, we have to do this, we have to cut costs, we have to, yes, it's going to be painful. I actually got a remark from the grapevine and people say, she's such a bitch. Exactly the same decision, exactly the same kind of, we have to save the institution, it's for the institution. The response is very different. So I can totally understand when you say, when a woman self-promote is very different from a man self-promote. When a man self-promote is confident, he knows exactly what he's doing, his experience is up there, you know, he eludes authority, and I believe I can listen to him. But when a woman self-promote is like, oh, come on, what is she trying to do? You know, it's just different. You're absolutely right. Very quickly to Polly, sorry for taking up your time. Please, there's one question that I would like you to answer, but you can add on to any of the other points that we've discussed so far. Thank you.
No problem. But one thing I want to make a remark. I feel pathetic for the guy who think you are a bitch, because they are at a lower level, to be honest. I feel pathetic for people think this way. Okay, about the mentor. Are there enough women who are ready to be mentor? Every woman are ready to be a mentor. That is my simple answer. Then I come back here. If you are talking about career and professional experiences at the CEO or board director level, to be honest, we have 2 levels of mentors, diamond. So the CEO, C-level, and the board director level. A lot of them are still men, as we can see from the statistic. So from the experiences, professional experiences, may not ready. However, there are a lot of top management women as well, and they can become our mentors. I also mentioned about our mentees, right? Our platform is enable every woman to contribute. So meaning it's not just to get benefit from the mentor. The female mentee learn from the mentor, and they can be a good mentor as well. So our mentorship program is not only about professional life. We want us to develop both professional and personal leadership. And then we don't need to really only stick to one job or one career. If we develop our personal leadership, we can excel through our life. And a lot of times, female apply for mentee as a mentee, and they are not confident that I can be a mentor because they think they may not have the experiences. To be honest, we do have. And we have gone through a lot of challenges. Sharing the challenges and how you deal with that is so important. And we say we want to empower women to unleash the potential. One thing I will always say, empower women is not just allow them to become a mentee. To empower them is empower them to become a mentor, because the mentor learns the most. If you become a mentor, you actually, it's not about taking your time. You learn a lot of great coaching and mentoring skill, and then you can use it back to your work when you manage your team. So that's why I encourage a lot of female mentees to become mentors. And they did that. A lot of them take the challenge and encourage to do that as well. So hopefully I've answered your question. And again, it's not about the quantity of time. It's only 1 hour per month we are asking for. So it's about the quality of time.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I'm a big supporter of what Polly is doing, because I believe that, you know, especially in the academic field, a lot of women don't even know how to to do certain things because they don't have that mentor to tell them, oh, this is not how you should approach the situation. This is instead how you might want to approach this. So having that mentor there, it's really important. And Polly, you're absolutely right. I'm still mentoring. I'm still mentoring my PhD students in China in that sense. So it is really not about the amount of time. It is about the quality of time. And talking about time, I'm cautious of the time. We have 5 minutes left before we, are going to end this session. I would like all panelists to look at one very interesting question in the chat box by Pan. She mentioned very inspiring presentation, professors. I would like to ask, how do you see your young 20 years old self as an independent woman you are right now in a means of taking challenges? I think I'm not very sure about the syntax of the question, but can I rephrase it a little bit, which I think would be more interesting is that I'm going to rephrase it in the sense that what advice would you give to your young 20 years old self from today's you in that sense, because you have come through a long way. We all make mistakes when we are 20 years old. We all done things that we probably look now and say, I wish there was someone who would give me an advice, say, don't do that or something. Yeah. So I'm just going to give you guys 30 seconds to think about it while I address this very interesting question, which is very Singapore context, but Andrew, who works very closely with me, I was waiting for that question to come up. He asked, with the gender equality, what are your thoughts on women serving national service in Singapore? There are extreme penalties that NS places on males' employability. A very interesting question. My daughter actually asked me, Mama, can I do national service, please? I was like, what? What do you mean? You want to do national service? And she said, yeah. I think it's what's wrong? Why can't I do it? Why only men can do it? And that really struck, because kids are so innocent, they are so they are not really structured by this whole stereotyping as well. And it's true. Why would only men do NS? Why can't women do NS as well? What's wrong with that? I mean, we all want to protect our motherland, and hopefully after doing NS, our starting pay will be as high as males as well. Holly, I'm not sure if you know, males always have a higher starting pay compared to women because of the 2 years they have devoted into national service, and as a result of that. So that could be one reason, which I agree, because it's time lost in terms of employable and opportunity cost. Okay, very quickly closing with the last question, which I think is a very fun question. I'll do the reverse order. I'll go with Polly, followed by Kim Ji, and then Sherry. What good advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? Polly, please.
Do the same thing again. That is my advice to my own self, because I want to say, listen to my father's advice, but no, because when I first graduated at 20 years old, my dad thought I should go for government job, because as a university graduate at that point of time, the salary is very high and lifelong paycheck. And he wanted me to do that. I said, you know what? If I only have 5,000 Hong Kong dollar per month, I would still go for a commercial job. And I go against all his advice and suggestion. Of course, it may have been a better life or different life as I listen to him. He has given me a lot of advice and suggestion based on the life experience. But I make it be myself. I say I would like to learn the mistake by myself. And because of that, I have all the courage to make mistakes. And I do not take failure as failure, learning lesson and move forward. And that's become who I am right now. So I would say to the same, do it again, Polly.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Polly. Ping Ji, please.
Okay, so maybe not a great advice, but I think this is pretty important when I compare myself now with the 20-year-old me. So be more confident and be brave to show yourself and speak out for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Ping Ji. Short and sweet. Sherry? Sorry, you're muted.
So that was a very, very challenging question. I really don't know. My first thoughts also were, what Polly said about self-doubt. Like, I guess, so I think two things, right? So one of self-doubt is that I keep trying to reflect and see how could I have done things better. I'm not sure if it'd be better to have more self-doubt or less self-doubt in this case, because on the one hand, you learn by making mistakes, but on the other hand, if you keep questioning yourself and trying to be better, then you don't make the sort of mistakes that you would have otherwise made. So it seems like a conundrum over there. Secondly, perhaps, I don't know. I have always been quite into this sort of like gender inequality issues, and that's why hopefully I'm sounding a bit more passionate about these things. So I don't know, maybe temper it down a little bit. So if it's I can't because it's too aggressive. Sometimes people tend to kind of like backlash on that. So there's kind of like a balance to do about, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you're back on. Sorry, go ahead, Sherry. You want to?
Sorry, no, I just wanted to add on to the national service question as well, since we're talking about this. So I wanted to do national service when I was 18, and then it was more of like, it's the same question. So I basically understand what the men are going through, right? It's basically 2 years of your life, and then you don't know what you're going to get out of it. And there's also the hassle of, is the institution ready for females? And you're probably as an individual, you might want to do so, but is the society ready for that? And so there was that kind of question, again, maybe with self-doubt, right? Could I have done it? And what would have the situation been like? If it was was the system of being in the army and NS, was it set up to allow for women to be in a service position? Obviously, yes, because there are many brave women who are in the service. My cousin-in-law is in the Navy right now, and so she's amazing. And just like some minor things, like as a woman, as a female, your time of the month, what's gonna happen? Like just logistical issues just come up, and they're like, hassle. So that's kind of me. But otherwise, I think women should go for the NS. It's really.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Okay, I'm not going to answer the question myself, because when I was in my 20s, I've made so many mistakes, and a sensible me now would say, don't make all those mistakes. You went through the hard way, and some of the mistakes I'm even so embarrassed to bring it up myself. But then in reflection, it's those mistakes, and that's why I agree with Sherry and Polly. It's those mistakes, and that coincides with the last question or comment in the Q&A. The rough and tough, is we have to, I won't say suffer. We have to go through it, right? We have to do it in order to build that confidence, to have that ability and to have that stature and maturity and experience to actually take up bigger and more things and to achieve greater things for the community, for the society, in that sense. Okay, with that, I will open the floor to any last words from our panelists. I'm sorry, my dear participants, unless there is something that you're really dying to say, or else you couldn't sleep tonight, type it within the next 10 seconds into the chat box. Then I'll let you ask that question. If not, then I will just open to the panelists. Any last words from anyone in this workshop? Polly, Sherry, Kim Ji.
Maybe just a last comment on the rough and tough thing. We always think of rough and toughness as being outside the family. So that's another thing that we need to address. Like roughness and toughness is in the workplace as a leader, as being ambitious in the army and whatnot. But what about, should we also learn to recognize that challenging work is also available in the home? The softer side of things, managing people, these the softer skills that perhaps women are supposed to have, but they're not prized as much as a very visible, ambitious work. It's just kind of my last thing.
On that, I also want to give a remark.
Yeah,
I took 3 years off to learn a PhD. When I go back to the job market, it's good because I learned a PhD, right? But I always tell all the motherhood, you took 3 years off for your children, and you learn some soft skill and some innovative perspective that is so needed at the workplace and as a leader. So frame it yourself, go, when you finish the 3 years, go to the employer and tell them, this is my soft skill, what I have learned. So as an employer, think about that. You can train hard skill to your employee, but soft skill is so much needed and can't be trained. So be proud as a mother if you take some time off with the children, and that's what you learn.
That's great. Kim Ji, any last words? If not, then I'll close it by last words.
Yeah, please do so.
Yeah, so thank you very much, everyone. And again, I agree with Polly. It's very interesting. You know, I'm a mother of two. I learned the biggest thing from my daughters is humility, because I learned that no matter how high up you are in an institution, no matter how big the team you command, but you come home at the end of the day, you're just a mother. And they teach you how to be humble, what is humility, and how to treat people well. So this is the best lesson I've learned from being a mother. And a very happy International Women's Day again. Thank you all, and good luck. Goodbye. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.